Hello students, today we will discuss the poem The Lake Isle of Innisfree. But before going into the explanation of the poem, let us discuss a few things about the Lake Isle of Innisfree. The Lake Isle of Innisfree is a 12-line poem comprising 3 quatrains, that is stanzas, written by William Butler Yeats. The poem was written in the year 1888. Now, William Butler Yeats is widely considered as one of the greatest poets of the English language. He received the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1923. His work was greatly influenced by the heritage and politics of Ireland. This poem is a lyric. It is a musical poem. It explores the poet's longing for the peace and tranquility of Innisfree, which is a place where he had spent a lot of time as a boy. Innisfree is the name of a place. It is a very quiet place, and that is the reason the poet wants to go there. He had spent his childhood in that place. He has very sweet memories of that place. That is why he wants to go back to the Lake Isle of Innisfree once again. The lake that is referred to in this poem is Lake Lowgill in County Sligo near the coast of Ireland. The isle is a very small, uninhabited island in the lake. The poem describes the isle as a much longed for place for peace and natural beauty. It is a very quiet place where the poet feels most grounded. We know that nature is the best healer. Some also say that it is the panacea of all diseases. So, if a person can find at a place nature in its fullness, then on visiting that place, his mental unrest or unease can be healed to a large extent. For the poet William Butler Yeats, um, the Lake Isle of Innisfree uh, was a stomping ground where he had frequented a lot of times in the past, and he knew the healing nature of the of nature, which could be found in sufficiency in the isle. Therefore, he was desperate to visit the place once again. He was now leading a city-bred life, and so he was quite fed up of the monotonous, humdrum life there in the city. He wants to be in rendezvous with nature once again. Now, let us go into the details of the poem and try to find out what he wants to do on going to Innisfree, or what he expects there from the Lake Isle of Innisfree. We can also understand what things are there which can relax an unrest mind when it visits or when a person visits the Lake Isle of Innisfree. First of all, let us read the poem. The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There, midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evenings full of linnets' wings. I'll arise and go now, for always, night and day, I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Now let us go into the explanation of the poem. First stanza. I'll arise and go now, and go to Innisfree. I'll arise and go now. He wants to get up immediately. He wants to arise means to get up. He wants to get up and immediately move to Innisfree. That means it shows his desperation to go to Innisfree. He feels that Innisfree is beckoning him, it's calling him, it's wanting him to visit that place. And a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. He wants to build a small cabin. That means he will stay there. Where will he stay there? He will stay there in a small cabin. And the cabin that he will make will be made of clay and wattles. Clay means mud, wattles means twisted sticks for making fences or walls. So he will make a small cabin which will be made of clay and wattles. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee. 9 bean rows. He will plant beans. He will have 9 beans of rows, which will, according to him, will be sufficient for him to have his food there. A hive for the honeybee. That means he will have a hive also, and he would eat beans and honey and survive there. He feels that he can grow his own food there. So he will have 9 rows of beans, and then he will have a hive for honeybee, which will be sufficient for him. According to him, which will be sufficient for him to live by consuming them. And live alone in the bee loud glade. Bee loud means filled with the humming of bees. Glade, an open space, or a large open space. So the poet wants to live alone in the lake, Isle of Innisfree. He wants to live alone there. He doesn't want anybody's company. He wants to be alone, and he wants to be completely amidst nature. He wants to live amidst the humming of bees, amidst the buzzing of bees. So from the first stanza, we can understand that the poet is very desperate to go to Innisfree. He doesn't want to spend waste even a single moment there in the city where he's staying at present. He wants to go there. He will make a cabin of his own. The cabin will be made of clay and wattles. Then he will plant beans in 9 rows, so that will be sufficient for him to eat. And he will also have a hive. And for honeybee, he could collect honey from the hive, and the beans and honey could help him in his survival there, in the isle. And he wants to live there all alone. He doesn't want anybody's company. He wants to stay there all alone. He wants to live amidst the humming of bees. He wants to live amidst the natural sounds and sights there. He doesn't want the intervention of any human being there. He wants to be amidst complete nature and amidst the sights and sounds of nature. Now let us move to the second stanza. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. Now the poet wishes to have some peace in the isle. Now perhaps he is not getting the peace that he wishes to have in the city in which he is living at present, and he believes that if he visits the isle, he can get the mental peace. And peace in Innisfree, once the veil of the morning, that means once morning dawns, the darkness is gone, the veil of darkness is removed by the light or the brightness of the day, immediately peace starts to pour in. Slowly, every moment one can find peace pouring into the isle. And this morning, from the morning, one can find peace prevailing in Innisfree. Even the creatures which are present in Innisfree, they get enlivened, they get rejuvenated, they start singing. That is, the natural sounds begin to flow smoothly, solacingly in Innisfree immediately with the dawn. And peace keeps dropping every moment in the isle. With that view in mind, the poet wants to go to Innisfree without wasting any moment. There, midnight's all a glimmer and noon a purple glow. It means even in midnight, one can experience the beauty of Innisfree in the faint light that pervades in Innisfree. And during the noon, there is a purplish glow pervading in Innisfree. That means the midnight and the noon, which are generally considered to be the dull hours of the day, are not the dull hours in Innisfree. One can find the pleasantness of beauty even in these dull hours there in Innisfree, because the faint light, it shows the beauty of Innisfree in midnight in Innisfree, and the purplish glow that pervades in the aisle during noon in Innisfree. It also rejuvenates, it also enlivens, it also brightens up one's mind. And evenings full of linnets wings. Linnets are small brown and gray birds with short beaks. They in the sky of Innisfree can be seen filled with the linnet birds in the evenings, and they create a different type of beauty. One can find the pleasantness of those things there in the evenings. So the poet says that he can he that if he experiences the flight of birds in the evening, that also gives him mental peace, that also makes him feel relaxed, because that is a natural movement, those are natural activities, and the natural activities found in plenty in Innisfree um, gives him great mental rest. Coming to the last stanza. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. So the water of the lake, when it strikes against the shore, they create some low sounds. And those low sounds are very pleasant sounds to the poet. He feels the pleasantness of the sound when the water of the lake strikes against the shore. So he immediately wants to go. He doesn't want to waste a single moment there in the city. He wants to go because he feels that the sound of the lapping sound, it draws his attention, and it drives his mind and soul towards Innisfree. He doesn't want to stay for a single day also there in the city, and he wants to go there because night and day he could hear the lapping sound in his heart. When I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in the deep heart score. So whether he stands on the roadway or on the pavements, wherever he stands in the town where he's living now, so the sound of the lapping sound of the water striking in the shore, it reverberates in his heart. He could feel the sound in the innermost part of his heart, and he feels the urge to go to Innisfree. Therefore, he doesn't want to waste even a single minute, and he wants to fly to Innisfree. So this is the poem, and from this poem we have learned that natural beauty is far superior to artificial beauty. The sights, sounds, and activities of nature have far healing effects than anything else. Therefore, the poet is desperate to go to his stomping ground, where he is sure to get solace, peace of mind, and relaxation. So that was the explanation of the poem. Now we will go into the literary devices that are used in the poem. Let us see what the literary devices are that are used in the poem. First is the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is AB AB. That is the first and the third lines of every stanza. They rhyme at the end, and the second and the fourth line of every stanza rhyme at the end. That is AB AB. Then we come to alliteration. Alliteration is when two or more words in a sentence all begin with the same sound. Example, a hive for honeybee. So hive, honey. So these are the repetition. They begin with the same sound. Now the repetition. I will arise and go now is repeated in stanza 1 and stanza 3. So this is called repetition. Next literary device is personification. Personification, what is the meaning of personification? Personification is a figure of speech in which a thing, an idea or an animal is given human attributes. Example here, morning is personified. It is personified as a human being, and some human attributes are given to morning. Then we come to metaphor, a word or a phrase that is used in an imaginative way to show that somebody or something has the same qualities as another thing. That is called metaphor here. Clouds are compared to whales, so whales is the metaphor here. Then we come to assonance. Assonance, it's also a figure of speech which is a resemblance in the sounds of words or syllables, either between their vowels or between their consonants. Example, 9 beans rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee. So here 9, I, hive, these are all assonances. Then we come to imagination. A small cabin built there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for honeybee. These are not there yet, but we can imagine the poet's plan for the isle. Then anaphora. Anaphora is a figure of speech in which words or phrases repeat at the beginning of successive clauses. Words like I will and have there occur frequently throughout the entire poem. So students, we have discussed the poem The Lake I Love Innisfree in details, and now it's time for us to move to the question answers part. So let us find out the questions that are there in the book, and afterwards we can go into some other types of questions, other questions which are not in the book, which we can make by ourselves and discuss. Now the first question in the book is, what kind of place is Innisfree? So you have to write about the place. What type of place is Innisfree? It's quite distinct, and you can get the answer in the book itself. What are the 3 things that the poet wants to do when he goes back there? Then what does he hear and see there, and what are its effect on him? What does the poet hear in its hardcore even when he is far away from Innisfree? So these are simple questions, and I think you can do by yourself without anybody's help, and try to do the. Then moving to question number 2, by now you may have concluded that Innisfree is a simple natural place full of beauty and peace. How does the poet contrast it with where he is now standing? Now the poet is now leading a city-bred life, and Innisfree is his stomping ground, where he frequented a lot in his childhood days. So how does he compare the life of city and the life that he spent in Innisfree? What are the differences that he brings about through this poem that you have to mention? Moving to the third question, do you think Innisfree is only a place or a state of mind? That means whether Innisfree is simply a place or it has occupied a permanent place in the mind of the poet. Does the poet actually miss the place of his boyhood days? So this you can do by yourself. Now next question. Look at the words the poet uses to describe what he sees and hears at Innisfree. 1. Beloved glade. 2. Evenings full of the linnet swings. 3. Lake water lapping with low sounds. Now student, this question has to be dealt in a little different way. Here, through these phrases, we have to see what sort of impression, while going through the poem we came across these phrases, we had learned in details about these phrases. Now what sort of impression do they create in our minds? When you went through the poem, what sort of impression it created on our minds, that you have to write. Moreover, in addition to this question, you can you do one thing, you give the explanation of each of the 3 here. Be loud good, explain in detail in 3 or 4 lines. Evenings full of linear swings and lake water lapping with low sounds. You just explain this in 2 or 3 lines separately. Now next question. Look at these words. Peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. What do these words mean to you? What do you think comes dropping slow from the veils of the morning? What does to where the cricket sings mean? So you have to give answers of this question, and please try to do the answers by yourself, and in the next session we will discuss the question answers that you have done. Thank you so much.